What's happening, Forum? Well, it is October of 2020. The world is still an absolute shitstorm, but Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time has finally been released. And guess what else? My PS4's HDMI port is still fucking dead. And I can't afford to fix it for a few more months, and I don't have the money for an Xbox One. Shit's expensive, Holmes. So I guess I'm gonna have to wait to either get my PS4 fixed, wait for it to get downgraded on the Nintendo Switch, or maybe just wait for the PC port to happen eventually. But neither of those two ports are gonna end up happening for probably another year anyways, so that sucks. With all that said though, I still feel like I should look at some kind of Crash Bandicoot game in celebration of Crash 4's release. But what should I look at? Crash Team Racing on PS1? Crash Nitro Kart on Xbox? Nah, I'm not really interested in doing that. Besides, I'm still recovering from looking at every F-Zero game last year. I don't think I'm ready to look at another racing game just yet. What about Crash of the Titans and Mind Over Mutant? Nah, I think Caddy already reviewed those games just fine. Besides, I have no interest or any actual reason to play those games ever. Tattoo Crash is one ugly mofo. Wait a minute. Didn't I review the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy and Wrath of Cortex over a year ago? Yeah, I did. It's kind of funny how Wrath of Cortex is no longer part of the current timeline of Crash games thanks to It's About Time retconning it from the new canon. It must suck for Wrath of Cortex fans being told that their favorite game doesn't actually count anymore. However, I feel like I forgot something. Wasn't there some other Crash Bandicoot game made like 3 years after Wrath of Cortex that I completely set to the sidelines because they wanted to do a random Godzilla marathon last year? What was that game called again? Oh yeah! Crash Twinsanity. Yikes. I completely forgot to review this game. Thanks a lot, Godzilla. Anyways, Crash Twinsanity was released in September 2004, nearly a good 3 years after the release of Wrath of Cortex in 2001. The game was once again developed by Traveler's Tales, returning after making Wrath of Cortex. However, instead of Twinsanity being developed by the main Traveler's Tales team, it would actually be handled by Traveler's Tales Oxford Studio, and apparently, this division of Traveler's Tales was created for the sole purpose of reviving the Crash Bandicoot series. That is oddly specific. Oh, fun fact by the way, Crash Twinsanity was both Oxford Studios' first and last video game. This is also the last Crash Bandicoot game to have any involvement from Traveler's Tales. This doesn't sound good so far. Like I said earlier, Twinsanity got released 3 years after Wrath of Cortex, so you may be thinking that Traveler's Tales had so much more time to work on this game compared to last time. If you didn't see my Wrath of Cortex review, which is now like over a year old, you should probably check it out. Wrath of Cortex only had about 1 year of development after Universal screwed over Traveler's Tales last minute. So given that Twinsanity came out 3 years after the fact, perhaps Traveler's Tales was able to develop things more smoothly.
Well...
Okay, where to begin? I'll try to keep this brief, but holy shit. You can make an entire documentary about how messy Twinsanity's development ended up going. For starters, the game originally began as Crash Bandicoot Evolution, and was going to originally have a much darker and more edgier tone for the series at the time. But unfortunately, while a lot of progress was made on the game, they had to end up tossing all of it out. Why? Because the first Ratchet & Clank game got released in late 2002, and that game was pretty much exactly like the Crash game that Traveler's Tales originally wanted to make. So obviously they didn't want to keep making this Crash game, then have it get released and people just call it a fucking ripoff of Ratchet & Clank. So the company decided to just scrap almost everything and start over. With the original idea of Crash Bandicoot Evolution abandoned, Traveler's Tales started making a new game with a more comedic tone, something much closer to what Twinsanity ended up becoming. Speaking of which, at one point while developing this new game, the freaking title itself still couldn't be decided on. So much so that Vivendi Universal gave the team just 1 hour to come up with a final title for the game, otherwise the default title would end up becoming Crash Bandicoot Unlimited. And so, with just 5 minutes to spare, the game's concept artist, Keith Webb, came back to Universal with the title we all know and love, Crash Twinsanity. Way to go, Keith. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that they spent a lot of time working on Crash Bandicoot Evolution, to a point where they ended up having even less time when they restarted and began making Twinsanity? Yup, despite Traveler's Tales having to redevelop an entirely new game, Universal still gave them a deadline of 2004 and would not let up on it because, you know, it worked out so well last time. With their deadline getting closer and closer, this sadly resulted in Traveler's Tales having to cut out a lot of content from Twinsanity before release. Apparently, it was reported that the final game they ended up releasing was just 1/3 of the game they wanted to make. 1/3. That is infuriating. Well, here we are, Crash Twinsanity. Some people love it, some people hate it, kind of the same reaction that Wrath of Cortex got, though I do think critics were kinder to Twinsanity, at least to my knowledge. The most history I have with Twinsanity is that I think I came across the website for the game back in the mid-2000s, and it was just the wallpaper of the artwork that we all know and love today. But going back to the 1/3 complete comment, I think it's really fascinating falling down the Twinsanity rabbit hole on YouTube because this game has a huge cult following of fans who have been documenting and uploading all the cut content, deleted scenes, unused levels, just so much was cut out of the final game. It is really interesting. Hell, even John Burton, who was the head of Traveler's Tales at the time of Twinsanity's development, uploaded a few videos on his YouTube channel Game Hut, where he actually showed off some cut content that hadn't been seen before. It's really fascinating. I recommend looking these videos up. I'll try linking a few of them in the description. Also, with the game being rushed, Twinsanity is not the most technically sound game. There are glitches to be had in this game. Like, there are tons of YouTube videos of people documenting all the glitches in Twinsanity. I've even seen some Crash fans go as far to say that this is the Sonic 06 of Crash games, just because of how buggy this game can get. I'm gonna be reviewing the original Xbox version of Twinsanity. I don't think it differs that much from the PS2 version, though interestingly enough there was a GameCube version that was planned for this game, but it unfortunately had to get scrapped because I feel like the development of Twinsanity is already a mess enough. Supposedly, they couldn't get the GameCube version out on time because of the limited disc space on the hardware, which I mean, if you already know how tiny the GameCube discs are, then that seems kinda plausible. Though I have seen some fans online say that it was definitely doable for them to port it to GameCube, they just probably had a deadline and they missed it. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. There actually does exist 2 clips of the GameCube version uploaded on IGN's YouTube channel for some reason. Weird, but at least we have some form of footage showing off this unreleased version of Twinsanity. There's no PC version of this game either, which is really weird. It was released in 2004, Half-Life 2 was about to come out, and Steam had been a thing for over a year at this point. So it's kinda strange, but also a bit sad that Traveler's Tales didn't capitalize on this market and put Twinsanity on PC. Hell, I'm sure once the word got out that this game was only 1/3 complete, maybe modders would have had a huge heyday with this game. Like, imagine a better Twinsanity mod, if you will. That would have been awesome! Okay, I'll stop rambling and actually get on with the review. It's just that the development of Twinsanity is just so fascinating and interesting to look into, and I highly recommend looking it up yourself. Especially since I don't even think I touched upon that much to begin with. And with all that said and done, here is my review of Crash Twinsanity. Let's get this over with. Well, first thing to note about this game, it can be played in widescreen? What? I mean, some of the demo videos are still in 4x3 being stretched. However, the gameplay, the FMVs, the menus, everything else, it's all in widescreen. Why does no one talk about this? This is awesome to see from a game in 2004. It feels like I'm one of the only people online who know about Twinsanity being in widescreen. The Great Clement didn't mention it, Oniplays probably didn't know about it, Caddy was emulating the game on 360, so it technically was playing in widescreen, but for some reason it was stretched down to 4x3, which was really weird, and I think Johnny did use the widescreen option, but the editing in his review was so rushed and bad that I stopped watching after getting 6 minutes into it. I mean, yeah, sure, in the whole grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, it's just a resolution for an old game. But I think it's really cool! Fuck you! Okay, let's start the game. In my reviews, I usually do a plot summary first, then talk about the gameplay, but with Twinsanity being kind of crazy and messy, I'm just gonna describe plot details once I get to them while playing the game's campaign. A bit different to what I usually do, but I really don't know how else to approach it for this game. Twinsanity is fucking weird, and you'll see why in a bit. The game opens with Coco chasing a butterfly, to which Cortex appears behind a tree and zaps her with his freeze ray, which leads to him stealing Coco's clothing to try to trick Crash into an ambush he's set up. What the fuck? This leads to our first bit of gameplay, and I gotta say, Crash's controls in this game are amazing. Seriously, these are some of the best controls I've ever experienced in a Crash game. The first level has you wandering around a more open Insanity Beach compared to the previous games. It appears that Traveler's Tales was finally able to make that free-roaming Crash game they originally wanted Wrath of Cortex to be like. That's pretty neat, and not a bad direction for the series to go in. Crash has all his usual moves. The spin, the body slam, the slide, the works. Though the slide isn't anywhere near as useful as it was in previous games. You're sort of locked into a path when you slide, and you can't turn while you're sliding, which is a little disappointing. Oh yeah, Crash also has his double jump again, but now it's a default move rather than being an ability you had to unlock in the past games. Very good, Traveler's Tales. This is how you should have done things 3 years earlier. Aw, Crash's head also turns with the camera when you move it. I think that's really cute. I like that. Not a fan of how it's apparently inverted, but whatever. So what exactly is the goal here? Well, there are gems for you to collect, which can involve doing some platforming and puzzles to earn them. Hell, some of them are just out in the open for grabs. Kinda strange how it's no longer about smashing every box in the level to be rewarded with a gem. Well, this isn't being a linear platformer anymore, so this was a very obvious change to be greeted with. I actually like it quite a lot, even though getting all the gems in this game isn't worth it, and the 100% completion award is not very good, but I'll talk about that at the end. Twinsanity quite possibly has my favorite art style in the whole series. I'm not kidding. The art direction in this game can be downright beautiful at points, and it's all running at a pretty smooth 60 frames a second to boot. This looks way better than how Wrath of Cortex ended up looking. Even the crates, I'd say, look the absolute best in this game. Like, compare the look of the crates in Wrath of Cortex to how they look in Twinsanity. Don't they look a bit more stylized and cooler here? It's a little better than Wrath of Cortex's flat impact font, wouldn't you say? The soundtrack is also something I'll mention now. Unlike the previous games, Twinsanity's soundtrack was done in a cappella, a style of music that's composed all without real instruments, just people's vocals. The soundtrack was made by the a cappella group, Spiral Mouth, and I think they did an outstandingly good job. I'll definitely delve more into the music as I venture through the game, but I swear, I always, and I mean always, hear from almost every person who's reviewed this game that the soundtrack isn't meant for everyone and all that crap. But you know what? I am tired of hearing people give this game's soundtrack that sort of limitation, so I'm just gonna say it. Crash Twinsanity has the best fucking soundtrack in the whole series, and if you don't like this game's soundtrack, you suck! Nah, I'm just joking. Obviously, it's all about preference. This kind of soundtrack isn't gonna be for everyone if you don't like this style of music. For me though, I think this game's soundtrack is really unique and cool. It's probably still my favorite soundtrack in the whole Crash Bandicoot series. It's one I often go back to listen to again and again. I also think the music really helps to shape the game's personality and overall appeal. Oh yeah, let's get back to that campaign. So you just wander around Insanity Beach until you have to follow Coco Cortex into the jungle. You end up traveling down this narrow corridor. It looks kinda similar to the levels in the PS1 games. I'm gonna assume this was an intentional callback. Jesus, look at the beams of light just seeping through the trees. It's so pretty. Wait, why doesn't the 1-up sound effect play when you collect 100 Wumpa fruits? Did they forget to put that in? You do hear the sound whenever you pick up a life from a 1-up crate, but not when you collect 100 Wumpa fruits? That's a bit strange. While playing through the level, we come across a new crate that was made just for this game. The World Crate. What does it do? Well, it's kind of an enhanced checkpoint crate, since it'll autosave your progress in a level, and when you boot the game back up, you'll end up spawning at the last world crate you broke. The world crate is a pretty cool idea. If we ever get another free-roaming Crash game like Twinsanity in the future, I'd love to see the world crate return. It'd be pretty cool. Anyways, Coco Cortex reveals herself to be Cortex, who tricked Crash into a surprise trap where we get to see all the classic baddies from the previous game return. Look at that, Polar's there with a baseball bat. That little cameo always made me laugh. I also really like how Crunch is there with a birthday cake. It's his only appearance in the game, and I think it's really cute how he must have thought this was an actual surprise party for Crash. It's also pretty neat to see the lineup of villains that were all originally planned to have boss fights in this game. You know, until Traveler's Tales got fucked over by Vinvetti Universal. You know, this funny cutscene is really sad now. Oh, by the way, the voice acting. Sound the alarm! I'm gonna ramble about voice actors again! Crash Twinsanity marked the first ever Crash Bandicoot game where Lex Lang officially took over the role of Dr. Neo Cortex, and he's still voicing him to this day. Apparently, Universal made them replace Clancy Brown with Lex Lang since they found Clancy's performance to be too mean for Twinsanity. I guess that makes sense, since this portrayal of Cortex is much more comedic compared to his PS1 counterpart. Though, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really bothered by Cortex's new voice. I actually didn't know this was Lex Lang for years until I looked it up and realized it wasn't Clancy. Lex does a remarkably good job as Cortex, and his performance in Twinsanity is probably his best. I think he really captures Clancy's original Cortex voice really well, while also adding his own spin to it.
Surprised to see me, Crash? Like the fleas in your fur, I keep coming back. 3 years I spent alone in the frozen Antarctic wastes, and I missed you.
Oh yeah, Coco is being voiced by Debbie Derryberry in this game, and actually started voicing her in Wrath of Cortex, which I completely forgot to mention in my last Crash review. Debbie would end up becoming the main voice for Coco until 2020 when she apparently wasn't the voice of her in Crash 4. That's a bit strange. Her Coco voice is alright. I do feel that in some of the later games she ends up sounding more like Jimmy Neutron than Coco, but she was alright in Twinsanity. Then again, Coco doesn't have that much screen time in this game. One of the last things I'll mention about the voice cast is actually super important. This was the last game in the series to feature Aku Aku's second voice actor, Mel Winkler, just before Greg Eagles took over the role in the later games. Mel Winkler had been voicing Aku Aku since Warped, so he was very likely the original voice of Aku Aku that we're all familiar with, and he did a pretty great job voicing him in this game. Sadly, Mel actually passed away earlier this year. Crash Bandicoot 4 was apparently dedicated to his memory, which is really sweet. Rest in peace, Mel. Thank you for giving Aku Aku his voice.
It is I, Aku Aku. My duty is to protect you. You may summon me by breaking open these crates. Call me thrice, and I shall grant you special powers.
Oh yeah, I guess one last thing I'll mention about the voice cast is Crash. In the fact that Crash is completely mute in this game. You're probably thinking, what are you talking about? Crash never spoke before. No. What I mean is that even the famous "whoa" and the other voice clips from the previous games are not present at all in Twinsanity. This was the first game in the series to stop using Brendan O'Brien's original Crash voice clips, which is really odd. Crash doesn't say anything at all in Twinsanity. This is truly one of the only games where he is completely mute. I really wish a PC port could have happened. I think it'd be pretty cool if someone could mod back in Brendan O'Brien's voice clips. Okay, voice actor talk is over, back to the game. Upon being tricked by Cortex and company, Crash ends up fighting the first boss in the game, which is dodging Cortex's projectiles and knocking them back into him when it's green. I like trying to knock Cortex into the spikes, it's funny. This leads to Crash fighting what Cortex calls Mecha Bandicoot, which is being piloted by Engine. This part of the fight is somehow easier. You just run left or right until he fires the same projectile at you so you can knock it back at him. And it just gets easier and easier with each hit. The boss fight music kicks ass at least. After defeating Mecha Bandicoot, Cortex crashes into Crash and they fall down into the caverns.
Lunch?
I love that joke. We then cut to Cortex having a tantrum, which leads to him tackling Crash, and the two end up rolling around in a little ball through level structures in these caverns. This ball rolling level is a really fun idea, but this is sadly the only level that has something like this. That really sucks because this controls great, honestly, and I'd also say it's a pretty nice upgrade to the ball rolling levels from Wrath of Cortex. This ball rolling level does, however, point out something kind of deadly with this game: the nitro crates. You remember the nitro crates, right? They explode on touch and can kill you, unless you had an Aku Aku mask on you. But in Twinsanity, even if you have an Aku Aku mask, the nitro crates instant kill you, and they are placed everywhere in every level. They just end up having this terrifying presence in all the levels because of how deadly they made them in this game. It can become extremely annoying, especially during the ball rolling level. At the very least, the music in this cavern level is probably my favorite in the whole game. I love how intense and kinda epic it sounds. It's pretty great. Anyways, after the first ball rolling section, Cortex ends up finding a crystal. So after beating up some random alien enemies, we come across a new gameplay mechanic: Crash dragging Cortex around while holding a crystal. Yeah, there are portions of the game where you have to drag Cortex around and toss him at certain set pieces to have him activate a pathway for you to make progress in the level. I really don't like these sections. These parts of the game can really drag on. Oh goddammit, that wasn't intentional. Wait a tick. If Cortex is Crash's arch nemesis, then why not throw him down a bottomless pit and let that be the end of it? Anyways. Hey, you guys think that's enough fucking nitro crates? Wait, the TNT crates can nuke metal crates now? So, after a brief second ball rolling section and escaping a giant drill, Crash and Cortex make it out of the caverns. This leads to them being introduced to the two worst characters in the whole fucking game.
Ooh, that feels good. I was bursting in there.
Wow, these guys suck. These two are the evil twins. Two bird-like aliens that are hell-bent on destroying Cortex and taking over Insanity Island. Why? The reason is really boring, trust me. Also, I want to go back to that. Is that seriously their official names?
How are you fools? Before the awesome might of the evil twins.
Really? That was the best name you guys came up with? Come on, even Caddy gave them a better name.
Why didn't you call them the Foul Brothers?
Caddy! That's brilliant! Despite these two sucking ass, I really like the cutscenes in this game. They're pretty well written, and with this game aiming to be more comedic than previous titles, there are some legitimately funny moments every so often. The script was written by Jordan Rychek, who previously worked as a layout artist on Ren and Stimpy. He was a character designer on The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog of all things, and he even directed the pilot episode for Invader Zim. Not only did he write the script for this game, but he also gave creative input on the characters and game mechanics, along with even illustrating the game's cover. Weirdly enough, the US cover is just 2D artwork, while PAL Regions got a much higher detailed render for its cover. I don't mind the flat 2D drawing on the US cover, but I would say the PAL cover is probably better by technicality. While we're still on the topic of covers, in Japan they actually ended up calling this game Crash Bandicoot 5. So I figured I'd help document that fact until the eventual Crash Bandicoot 5 gets released in the future, and completely retcons Twinsanity from existence. Though that will be a very sad day. I like how the FMVs are in widescreen and they look really good. Plus the in-game cutscenes are well animated too. Though the in-game cutscenes do have some issues where some of them are missing sound effects and for some reason you can't skip them. Now, you can skip the FMV cutscenes just fine, but the in-game cutscenes, you can't. This can be a problem because, well, say you get to a checkpoint, then you see a cutscene right after it. If you die after that cutscene, you'll spawn back to the checkpoint, but you'll end up being forced to watch the same cutscene again, completely unable to skip it. That's so weird. Here's something weirder. On John Burton's YouTube channel, Game Hut, he was showing off an earlier version of Twinsanity that actually had the ability to skip in-game cutscenes. So it was programmed in at one point during development, but they ended up taking it out for the final game? Why? Did skipping cutscenes cause crashes, no pun intended, or some other issues that they couldn't sort out in time for the game's release? Damn it. Random rant time! I don't like Crash's unhinged look in this game. In the previous games, he looked worried and scared. It was somewhat charming to see this orange marsupial creature make it through these great adventures while he was scared as hell. But in this game, he's constantly smiling and nothing feels like it's a threat to him anymore. It kinda loses that charm the character originally had. Even the model in Wrath of Cortex didn't have him constantly smiling like an orange Sheen Estevez, and that model looked like shit. Though I will say, I really like Crash's new knee pads. Those make him look really cool. I wouldn't mind if they let him keep those in the future games. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Random rant time over! Where was I? Oh yeah, the Fowl brothers leave and Cortex gets chased by bees. Wait, what? Yep, Cortex is being chased down by bees and even a bear. So you gotta keep up with him, all while getting dangerous obstacles out the way so he doesn't die. Sections like this are actually pretty fun. They're pretty nice obstacle course challenges. But again, Cortex is Crash's arch rival. Why not just let him die and go defeat the Fowl brothers on his own? Oh, whatever. What the hell is that bear's running animation? After Cortex gets through all that, he gets captured by the tribespeople. So now you gotta go rescue him by first going through a stealth section? Really? You have to hide inside these boats and behind these reeds so you're not caught by some random tribesman looking at the area. Getting caught will result in Crash getting speared. Brutal. This part sucks and I hate it. Nothing has given me as much annoyance and anxiety as this part of Twinsanity has. It is so obnoxious. Anyways, after getting past the boats, you end up raiding the tribe's village. This involves guiding an evil worm towards Cortex, so you can hop up to him and grab the crystal. This was the part of the game where I remembered how bullshit the hitboxes on these spears can be. What the fuck? Why did simply touching them hurt you? It's so annoying. Spinning into the tribespeople can often find you getting punctured by a spear. Sliding into them can sometimes work, but the slide mechanics in this game are already kinda crap anyways, so I'm just not sure, man. I should also point out that this part of the game has probably the most famous piece of music from the soundtrack. Remember that old ass video of the stormtrooper air humping while funny music was playing? Well, this level in Twinsanity is where that music came from. You're welcome, internet. Okay, so you get the crystal and wait, we're being chased? Yep, we're in a chase sequence, and you're being chased by tribespeople that you can't kill. Even though we just played a level a few minutes ago where you can kill them, but you can't kill them here. Makes perfect sense. After that chase scene, we are led to one of my favorite cutscenes, where some random farmer voiced by Biff Tannen begs Crash and Cortex to clear his crops of evil worms, to which Cortex responds in the proper way.
I'll give you this power crystal. I'm an evil scientist. What do you expect? This isn't a game.
Now, that cutscene on its own is funny. What kind of kills the joke is the game still makes you play the worm minigame. I mean, I do like the idea of using Cortex to smash worms since his forehead already looks like the head of a hammer, but why kill such a decent joke by making us play the minigame anyways? It kind of reminds me of when Duke Nukem Forever made that stupid joke at Valve's expense, you know, making fun of doing puzzles in adventure games, only to make you play the puzzle anyways. Good one, Duke. Oh boy, it's Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and they brought us a boss fight to fight. The controller is vibrating, but where are the sound effects? This Tiki boss is alright. I'm gonna be honest, alright is how I feel about almost every boss fight in this game. Besides maybe 2, but I'll get to them later. By the way, I've seen plenty of people fall for this, so here's a heads up. After you defeat the Tiki boss, don't go anywhere near his dead body, because even though he's dead, he can still harm you. And if you get killed by this without breaking the checkpoint crate after the boss, you are gonna get sent back to the previous checkpoint crate before the boss fight, and you will be forced to replay the entire fight. Did I mention this game wasn't finished? As in, it wasn't properly quality assured? This game is a mess.
I'm on a boat! I'm on a boat! Take a good hard look at the motherfucking boat! Yeah!
Ooh, snow! Happy Halloween? I like the look of this level. It's super cool. Fuck me, I didn't mean to make that pun. Again, the art style in this game is just super pretty. And the Ice Lab levels are some of the best looking in the game. Though apparently, the Xbox version is missing some graphical effects from the PS2 version, which did make it look slightly better, but not the biggest loss though. However, I like this level, but it does highlight that one issue from earlier where, do you really think this is a little too much nitro crates? So, as you venture to the top of the ice mountain, we come across some penguins, which leads to a funny joke.
Well, the past few years have kind of been slow. Wrath of Cortex didn't do as well as we'd hoped, and
And a funny slapstick bit.
fish?
Oh good, we're dragging Cortex around again. I'm so excited. How the fuck am I supposed to get this extra life? What the fuck? Okay, maybe it's just the faster paced Sonic fan in my soul speaking, but these parts where you gotta drag and toss Cortex at certain level set pieces for him to activate something so you can make more progress is kind of boring. I just want to make a move on already, jeez. We better be getting to something good at the end of this section.
Free! Again!
Uka Uka is free! Hey, this is a pretty solid boss fight. Actually, I think the parts where you gotta use Cortex as an object for activating switches to stop the bosses feels way better than just dragging him around in the levels. This just flows a little better. It also feels really satisfying pressing the big button to send fire up Uka Uka's arse. Not to mention, that music! Uka Uka's boss theme just sounds awesome. Overall, this was a pretty ice boss fight. Sorry.
I shall return!
Uka, wait! An evil greater than even yours threatens to destroy this world.
No! That's my job!
Divided, we are but two magical masks. Join me, and together we shall defeat this evil infestation.
Huh. I thoroughly enjoy Star Wars. Also, I hope they annihilate those bird fucks. So we finally enter Cortex's lab, and...
Come, we must make preparations for... It's probably for you.
Trick or treat, trick or treat.
oh boy, it's my favorite characters. Oh boy, it's my favorite mini section! This part is really annoying, because these ugly alien creatures require more than one hit to kill, and the hitboxes on their knockoff lightsabers are so goddamn annoying that I swear I died here more times than necessary just trying to kill them all! And it was all for nothing! The bird dorks just leave immediately. Thanks for nothing!
Dr. Cortex, what have you done?
Who are these evil upstarts? I've ruined the lives of so many. I can't be expected to remember them all.
That's such a brilliant line. So Cortex decides to formally team up with Crash finally, and the two head up to the top of the Ice Mountain, to which Cortex realizes they have to get to the bottom of it as soon as possible. But how? Snowboarding! This is easily one of the best parts of the game. It's fast-paced, it controls great, it has superb physics, it is brilliant. Also, the music! This is one of the best songs in the game. I especially love the part midway through the song where it has that big breakdown. It ends up sounding really intense and awesome. So good.
Coming through! Ladies? Excuse me, madam. Are those real? Mother?
Oh my god. Is that Tana? Also, while recording, Cortex's animation kinda glitched. You see, when Cortex is facing the camera, he's meant to look like this. But here, his animation kind of messed up. So now he's just flattened. We also get to roll into a snowball near the end, which is fun, even though the snowball kind of flubbed up near the end while I was recording, but that's fine.
I've never been so humiliated. No amount of treasure could ever begin to compensate.
Again, no sound effects, but the controller vibrated. That counts for something. Now we come to High Sea Hijinks, one of my least favorite levels in the game. It's not bad or anything, I'm just not too big on the scenery when we get inside the ship. And the platforming gets a bit stale here. Why the nitro crates? It's not clever level design. This is becoming borderline lazy. Also, why can't I jump on these rats? What the fuck? By the way, have you been feeling that the pacing has been getting a bit messy? I'm referring to the game, not the review. Well, it's about to get a whole lot crazier. First off, we get to possibly the worst boss fight. Engine. You just walk around in a circle until he nukes the ground away. It's as boring as it looks. Upon defeating him, both Crash and Engine fall out of frame. Now, if you know nothing at all about Twinsanity and you're using my review as your first time experiencing this game, for whatever reason, I want you to take a guess about what happens next. I'm being serious, take a guess. What could possibly happen next? Well, let's see!
Ah, yummy fresh meat for my pot.
What the fuck? Yep, we're being chased by some random-ass walrus chef, I guess. What is even happening anymore? This chase sequence is alright, just made a little more annoying due to the nitro crates. Then, near the end, the mayhem is not over as Crash finds a bunch of TNT crates that Engine accidentally detonates. And then, you end up on an iceberg where you bump into Entropy and Embryo, leading to a painstakingly easy boss encounter, complete with Embryo transforming to a totally silent cutscene. Where are the sound effects? And again, you just run around in circles to beat this boss just like Engine's boss fight. For Entropy, you just gotta jump in circles until his force shield goes down, then you spin into him, then rinse and repeat. Then after that, Cortex tells you to follow him back to his lab. Yeah, all that crazy shit is over. For now. This leads to Coco coming back into the plot just to ruin things.
My crystals!
Thanks a lot, Coco. You just helped with expanding this game's runtime by another hour. Also, Coco can harm you even though she's completely frozen. Why did they bother programming that? Really? These schnozzes again? Whoa, whoa, whoa! We're playing as Cortex now? Aw, Uka Uka is being his stand-in for Aku Aku. That's cute. Oh, that was brief. So, here we are at Madame Emberly's Academy. I can't wait to waste another approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes playing this mess. And ho-ho, we're finally getting spoopy up in this mother. Happy Halloween! In all seriousness, I really love the look of this level when you're inside and outside. The theming and everything here is great. Very nice. So Crash and Cortex head inside the Academy's boiler room to find more crystals. You end up tossing Cortex in a machine that shoves him inside a barrel. And because it's Twinsanity, a joke happens.
The greatest evil scientist in the world! Stuck in a pipe. How could things get any worse?
Okay, I hate fart jokes more than anything. I just think they're the lowest form of comedy, but that was pretty decent. Throughout the boiler room level, you roll Cortex around and have him go through a few obstacle course-like areas to help progress through the level. I actually really like this part of the game. It's solid platforming and puzzle-solving fun, and rolling Cortex around controls really well. The level's not perfect though. It can be a little hard to find out which way you're supposed to go, which might make you miss a few areas where you gotta activate pathways, which may cost you a few lives. There's also a few bits where you gotta wait for these doors to fall down before you progress. Otherwise, you'll end up falling in the gap and die. How? And later on, you come across these annoying bug enemies. The hitboxes on them are so stupid. One of them managed to kill me while we were off screen, what the fuck? And I swear you can barely kill these fuckers. They're really obnoxious. Anyways, you get past the boiler room, and you come across one of the only Crash villains that managed to get a boss fight in this game, Dingo Dial.
How's he, ain't it? Rumour is you two chumps have got your mitts in some treasure. And I want a piece of that pie.
I have no idea what you just said.
Don't Australians have such cute accents? I love this boss fight. It's probably the best boss fight in the game. First off, I love Dingo Dial. Duh. Second, his patterns and other traits really make this boss fight memorable and challenging. Every hit you make on Dingo Dial, the more difficult it gets, complete with some solid boss fight music and creepy pig noises. This boss fight has a perfect atmosphere, and I always look forward to replaying this part of the game. Heck, when Dingo Dial kills you, he does a little victory animation. Not a lot of bosses in the game have that. I love it. Upon defeating Dingo Dial, Crash and Cortex head up to the hallways of the Academy and yeah, Twinsanity has this issue with loading different parts of the levels. So sometimes when the game is still trying to load these huge chunks of levels, it'll force Crash to stop, and if you try to go into the area, it'll make him just fall over until the area is loaded. This happened to me a few times while recording footage. It's pretty bad, but kind of funny to see when it happens. I'm not sure if my copy is badly damaged or anything, but this has always happened to me since I first played this game. Let me know if you also ran into this issue because, I don't know. Moving on, we're in the hallways of the Academy, and oh boy, more stealth! Stealth in platformers, especially for Crash, is dull, boring, and not fun. Stop doing this. Holy shit. If anything, this is the second and last stealth area. Also, does anyone else get Invader Zim vibes from the school interiors and design? I mean, most of this game already feels like early to mid 2000s Nickelodeon anyways, plus the writer for this game did work on some Nick shows, so I'm not too surprised here. There's this one set piece where you're platforming up a library with some toxic waste chasing after you. It's pretty tense and I really like it, even though it's brief. After that area, Cortex suddenly appears and we're playing as him. Nearly 2.5 hours into the game and we're finally playing as Cortex. Like, properly. Cortex's gameplay is pretty alright. You run around and shoot things. Cortex's jumping kind of sucks. He's nowhere near as agile as Crash, obviously. Plus, you need to collect ammo for his weapon. Why? Why not just give him infinite ammo? Does it really matter that he needs to refill his gun? It's a little tedious. Though I will admit, when he runs out of ammo, his animation while running changes to him being scared out of his mind. That's pretty humorous. It almost makes this limitation worthwhile. Anyways, at this point of the game, we get to meet a new character, Nina Cortex, Cortex's niece. And remember in Caddy's review where the first cutscene with Nina was having some pretty severe slowdown? Well, he was playing the game on an Xbox 360, which already has some emulation issues, especially for Twinsanity. It also doesn't help that the PAL version of Twinsanity is running at 50 Hz, and when Caddy played it for his review, his 360 was forcing it into 60 Hz, which I imagine was causing way more problems. So I initially thought that since I was going to be playing the US version of Twinsanity, which runs at 60 Hz, and I was going to be playing it on authentic original Xbox hardware, not emulated on the 360, so I initially thought that whenever I got to that Nina cutscene, I wasn't going to have the exact same problem that Caddy had when he played the game. And upon playing it for myself, I was completely wrong and ran into the same fucking problem.
With its long claws that scratch and its sharp teeth that bite. Under the covers, there's no need to hide, for your uncle's a monster and he's on your side!
You know, this game really could have used a PC port. So now we're playing as Nina, and she's pretty much just Crash again, but she doesn't have the double jump. Though her jumping is a hell of a lot better than her uncle's, that's for damn sure. Nina also has a grappling hook move that works alright. I'd heavily advise holding down the grappling hook button to make sure you get a good grip on level structures. Trust me, it'll become super helpful later on. Also, I did notice some more issues with this game during Nina's section. Whenever these shitty alien characters start to spawn in, their knockoff lightsabers are already just awkwardly floating there, just waiting for them to appear. Yikes. Let me know if I'm not the only one who encountered this. Oh yeah, there's a plot point where Crash tied Cortex's airship to a bus, and it ends up carrying the bus around, which ends up chasing after you at some point. This is where the fact that you can't skip cutscenes really becomes an issue, because every time you die in this section, the game forces you to watch the same cutscene again. It's a little tedious. This is one of the only parts of the game where you get to play as Nina, and I get the feeling that Traveler's Tales probably planned for her to have more levels, but I'm gonna assume that all of them had to get the axe. Quite a shame. Nina honestly had a lot of potential. She has a great character design, and that lowercase n on her forehead is a brilliant touch. I also want to make note, while I did suffer the same slowdown issue that Caddy did in that cutscene from earlier, I thankfully didn't encounter the same severe slowdown issues playing as Nina like Caddy did. I felt so bad for Cadicurus when I saw that part of his review. Those slowdown issues really ruined this plain, but decent Nina section. So after Nina's part, we get right back to playing as alright Cortex, to which we end up fighting another boss, Madame Amberly, Cortex's old teacher. This boss is alright. Probably Cortex's best boss fight. It's his only boss fight, besides the final boss. The music's good. You also have unlimited ammo here. I'm guessing someone at Traveler's Tales must have realized this running out of bullets mechanic would have been terrible here, so they fixed it. That's good. It's just for this section only though. So after Madame Amberly, oh wait, the game's having loading issues again. Just give it a moment. God damn it. And that was Madame Amberly's Academy. Let's get out of here. So, Cortex uses the crystals they collected to create a portal to a new world, which leads to my favorite joke in the entire game.
Come now as we explore a new dimension! It should have been 2 new dimensions, but we ran out of time.
I like to imagine that the game's writer was probably pissed off that they had to end up cutting out a lot of his ideas. So he probably wrote that in his last draft as a jab at Universal for practically ruining this game. That is so great. So Cortex's lab is transported to Twinsanity Island, and...
Your fur is so soft and warm.
Ah, what the hell? Evil Crash?
I should have known.
Yep, this is Evil Crash, the most bland name ever. He ends up kidnapping Nina, so Crash and Cortex have to chase after him. We then get a pretty solid joke.
My daughter, niece! We must do something! Think, Cortex, think!
And this leads to another snowboarding level, yay! This one is just as fun as the first one. Such a shame that there's only 2 levels that have snowboarding sections. Well, at least they used the snowboarding mechanic more than the ball rolling mechanic. Anyways, after that fun section, Evil Crash just sort of stops running, only for him to start chasing after Cortex. Hi Nina, how you doing? I like how open Twinsanity Island is. This level is pretty cool looking. Referring to that joke from earlier, if we were gonna go to 2 different dimensions, and this was one of them, I wonder what the second dimension was gonna look like. So we end up going through another section that's just like the bee chase from earlier in the game. This time it's Cortex being chased by Evil Crash. It's about as good as the bee section, take that however you will. After that chase sequence, you end up at the entrance of the final level, Ant Agony, the Fowl Brothers' lair. Though before that, my curiosity got the better of me, and I ended up finding this hidden cave that I never discovered before. So I head inside, and it leads to nowhere. Well, time to go back, and oh god, there's more loading issues, really? I also came across this teleportation unit that transports you back to the ice lab. I guess it's for after the game when you want to come back and finish collecting all the gems. It's not worth it, so, I mean, this thing is here, I guess. Let's just get to the end of the game already. Alright, the final level, Ant Agony. Why does the beginning of the level music sound like the Terminator theme? Can no one else hear it? Is it just me? Okay, fine, whatever. It's just strange. Even stranger is the baby sound effect mixed into the level music. Just a weird detail. The final level is actually one of my favorites. It's got some fun platforming bits where you gotta jump on these Simon Says-like platforms. It's aesthetically really nice, and it makes the level more memorable as a result. I love platformers that require good timing to get past obstacles. However, this level is where I realized that when you get 3 Aku Akus, you don't get any invincibility music. What happened to the classic drum beats from the original game? Hell, I'll even take the boring synth track from Wrath of Cortex. Spiral Mouth is already hitting home runs with this soundtrack. They probably could have made an amazing invincibility theme for Aku Aku. What a missed opportunity. Oh yeah, at some point during the level, we get a fun cutscene where Cortex, Crash, and Nina discover all the treasure in the twins' lair, which leads to a fun cameo from a familiar friend.
Personally, I don't care, but I think he might want his gems back.
That's cute, I like that. Okay, we're nearing the final boss, so let's just walk down this hallway and... Oh, come on! We're right there, game! The twins are right behind that door! Why are you suddenly having issues at the end of the game? Just let me end this campaign already! Okay, so our heroes finally approach the twins, which obviously leads to the final boss. And guess what? It stinks. First off, no sound effects in the cutscenes, again. Second, the section with Nina is a little faulty in terms of mechanics. I mentioned that tip from earlier to hold down the grappling button when grabbing onto things, but here, for some reason Nina's grappling controls are so jank. Sometimes she'll grab onto stuff, and other times she just won't. What the hell? I didn't have as many issues like Caddy did, but good lord, this is a mess. Also, when you die, you go back to Nina's section, and you're forced to watch the same boring and silent cutscene again and again. Sadly, while Nina's section can be a little obnoxious, it's probably the best part of the boss fight. Cortex's section is just running left or right and shooting at the twins when you get the chance, so Cortex's section was boring and easy. And Crash's section is somehow easier. I do love the idea that he's using the Mecha Bandicoot from the start of the game, somewhat having both the first and last bosses in the final fight. That's cool, but they do nothing interesting with it. You just walk left or right and shoot at the twins when you see an opening. It's just Cortex's section, but again, it's somehow easier. This final boss is pretty suckish, Traveler's Tales. Well, I don't have a lot of good to give to the final boss, but the ending of the game is actually pretty great. The Fowl brothers end up flying away and arrive at Evil Crash's house where he eats them. Yeah, this game ends with Evil Crash eating the twins. I hated these two characters, so seeing their demise play out like this, I like it. This also leads to a pretty funny final cutscene, where Cortex just up and decides, you know what, fuck you Crash, I'm just going to murder you. Which he does try to do, but results in Cortex's machine malfunctioning, and it causes him to be warped inside of Crash's brain, where Cortex comes across an army of Crashes that end up doing the Crash Dance. I may have some issues with this game, but the cutscenes are definitely not one of them. And that was the main campaign of Crash Twinsanity. That was rough. Crash Bandicoot will return. Oh boy, that did not age very well. Oh, we're back at the ice lab? That's a interesting spawn point, I guess. Is the extra content worth going after? Well, collecting the color gems can unlock a few galleries and a video, but that's about it. It's not anything worthwhile. The 100% award is just another bonus video, which features Crash and Cortex doing some trust exercise. It's an okay video, not as good or funny as some of the better cutscenes in the main game, but this is not a reward that's worth unlocking at 100%, and you could just go look it up on YouTube anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Hell, in the PAL release of Twinsanity, you don't even unlock this video when you complete the game. Instead, you get some random animation test. Since I guess they weren't able to implement this trust exercise cutscene in all versions of the game, what the fuck? Okay, that's basically all I have to mention about Twinsanity, and this review has gone on for long enough. In the end, Crash Twinsanity is just rough. Really rough. There are elements in it that I do really like, but there's just a lot of things holding the game back. With its gameplay issues, bizarre pacing, and oodles of cut content, Twinsanity just feels like an incomplete game, mainly because it is. The graphics and music are really nice, most of the cutscenes are really entertaining, and there are some levels that I do really like. But Twinsanity has almost zero replay value. I only go back to play this game whenever I'm in the mood to replay the whole game, which doesn't happen too often. It's a fine game. I do think it's Traveler's Tales' best effort in the Crash series, and it would have been nice if they weren't screwed over by the deadline, and potentially got to make more Crash games. It's a sad end to their career with Crash, and it makes Twinsanity just come off as more like a missed opportunity of sorts. Would the game have been way better if Traveler's Tales got to finish it the way they wanted to? Maybe, or maybe not. Who truly knows at this point? I do recommend Twinsanity, but mainly for its fun story and great soundtrack. The gameplay itself is just super uneven. Damn, the people who watch my videos who don't care about stories will probably hate this game. It's a fine game, but I do wish it could have been more than just the 1/3 of the game that Traveler's Tales wanted. There was never a proper follow-up to Twinsanity, at least not in this style of Crash games. Obviously not counting spin-offs. The two games we got after this one were the infamous Crash of the Titans and Mind Over Mutant, which featured new character designs and a new gameplay style because these two games came out during a time where platformers were dead. You can thank my daughter and Odyssey for reviving them. Also, I'm not reviewing these two games. Ever. Like, full stop. They look boring, I hate the character designs, they're not worth giving any more attention to anymore, especially with Crash 4 retconning everything after Warped. Fuck these two games, and fuck Tattoo Crash. Rest in hell, a-hole. I've been hearing good things about Crash 4. I'll play it whenever I get the chance. Having a broken PS4 and no Xbone can be difficult. I don't know when I'll review it, not anytime soon, but I'll see what happens. I respect that they basically said fuck you to continuity, and said that this is the true sequel to the original Crash trilogy. Though I do feel bad that Twinsanity also ended up getting swept under the rug. I don't know. I didn't love this game, but I did like a lot of the ideas in it, especially story-wise. Shame that it's all kind of gone to waste. Well, at least Lex Lang is still voicing Cortex. I remember back when the Insane trilogy came out, Twinsanity fans were clamoring and hoping their favorite Crash game would see a remake of some kind too. Hell, even Keith Webb, one of the original artists on Twinsanity, who also came up with the game title last minute if you recall, ended up writing this open letter to Vicarious Visions, congratulating them on the success of the Insane trilogy, and even gave a proposal to them about making a Twinsanity remaster if they were interested. He even drew a nice piece of artwork for them, which I really like. Sadly, nothing else has come from this since 2017. And with the advent of Crash 4, I doubt Twinsanity will get the remaster its fanbase has been hoping for the past 16 years. That's life though. We don't always get what we want. What a good fucking way to end the review, huh? And that was Crash Twinsanity. Yeah, sorry for the long wait for this one. I just can get easily distracted when working on multiple projects. I've got some other reviews that I do want to try to get out before the end of 2020. This year just sucks, honestly. I guess until those videos come out, thank you for watching this lengthy review of Twinsanity, and yep. Hey, before the video ends, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Crash fan sites Crashmania and Beyond Twinsanity. Crashmania because it's such an awesome website that helped me get a lot of good official art and promotional images, and Beyond Twinsanity for just being a great website documenting everything you could know about Twinsanity the game. It's also where I was able to find master WAV files of the Twinsanity soundtrack, so check out Beyond Twinsanity if you want to get those resources. You guys kick a lot of ass, by the way. Also, I guess while I'm at it, I'll give a shout out to my patrons. So thank you to Bunny Gummy, IKG Productions, Jason Smith, Mason Hackle, Omar, Spenny VA, and Super Shaddix Boom. Thank you all for the support and everything. The link to my Patreon is in the description, along with links to my social media accounts. So be sure to follow me on all of that for updates on future videos. This is probably the third time I've said this in the video, but I hope you enjoyed watching my lengthy review of Twinsanity, and I hope you look forward to the future reviews. Yeah. And I guess while I'm at it, happy Halloween. Bye.